Time to go.
Can't. Now you screwed it up again.
Okay. It's 7 o'clock and we're ready to start this evening, and we welcome anyone who's tuning on who's not here at the broadcast time. So let's begin with prayer. Dear God, we've been many places in the past week since we've met together, and we've had adventures, and God, wherever we've been, you've been. Now tonight, God, we invite you to be part of our group, to speak to us, open our ears, open our hearts. Bless this study as we look in your word. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Who remembers where we are?
Molly's house. In the Bible.
We're in
Genesis
the Bible.
24.
Anybody remember what happened this week? I'll give you a hint. Somebody died last week.
Sarah,
Can you hear us? Dan just said Sarah died a minute ago.
Sarah died, and then Abraham wanted to buy property so he'd have a cemetery burial place.
Right.
Okay. So we killed off Sarah, and now we're ready to go on. Abraham alone. And I think tonight there's going to be some surprises in this chapter. Now I'm going to tell you as we start. Chapter 24 is a long chapter. It's 67 verses. And it is in the very direct line of Hebrew storytelling, which means it's going to be quite repetitive. So that's the way it is. So let's start. We're on Genesis 24. Let's start with 1 through 9.
I'll do that.
Thank you, sir.
Before we start that, we
Yeah.
were trying to figure out where Hebron was.
Yeah, Dan had homework.
Yeah,
But
oh, that's right.
I looked it up, and it's a Palestine city in the southern part of the West Bank, about 19 miles south of Jerusalem.
Okay.
And the site where Sarah was buried, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob supposedly were also buried there, and their wives, Sarah, Rebecca, and Leah, also are supposedly buried there.
And,
Oh, okay.
and Leah has weak eyes. I learned that in high school.
Yep. And Rachel is not buried there, and I know that because we'll find out where Rachel, which was Jacob's other wife, who she died along the road and they buried her there. We'll find that out as we go on, but yeah, okay.
Well, Dan, you got bonus points.
I
Good
need
job.
them. I need them.
Yeah, so we know where Hebron is, and good. So not far from Jerusalem, a day's walk. 19 miles is a goodly long walk for a day. Okay, so now we're at chapter 24, and we're going to read verses 1 through 9. And Sue is going to read.
Abraham was now old and well advanced in years, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. He said to the chief servant in his household, the one in charge of all that he had, "Put your hand under my thigh. I want you to swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you will not get a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I am living, but will go to my country and my relatives and get a wife for my son Isaac." The servant asked him, what if the woman is unwilling to come back with me to this land? Shall I then take your son back to the country you came from? Make sure that you do not take my son back there, Abraham said. The Lord, the God of heaven, who brought me out of my father's household and my native land, and spoke to me and promised me on oath, saying, to your offspring I will give this land. He will send his angel before you to so that you can get a wife for my son from there. If the woman is unwilling to come back with you, then you will be released from this oath of mine. Only do not take my son back there. So the servant put his hand under the thigh of his master Abraham and swore an oath to him concerning this matter.
Okay. A lot of stuff is happening in here. A lot of things between the lines. So do we have any idea who who the servant is? I give you a hint. No, we don't. It's never mentioned. But we might want to make it could be Eleazar, who was going to be the servant, who was going to be the heir if Abraham hadn't had any offspring. But we don't know. But it's a very trusted person because Abraham is entrusting him to go and get a wife for his son. All right, let's think about, so where does Abraham want the servant to go?
Back to the country where he came from.
Okay.
Mesopotamia.
He's getting a wife for Isaac from his own kin, from his own family. He didn't want him to take any of these foreigners. You got that Abraham's going, I'm in this land, and he's still going, no, not good enough for my son. I want you to go back and get what I want. But why didn't he want Isaac to possibly go back to that land?
Because he might not come back. He might stay there. He might like it better there. He doesn't want him out of his sight. He wants him to stay with him because that's where God promised that he would be raising all of Abraham's people that have been promised and come from Isaac, so he needs to stay there. That's where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, this is God's promise. No, we're not. We've gone through all of this to have this son, and to have him go back. No, Isaac is not going. Go find him a wife. And if you find a wife and she's not willing to come, then we'll deal with it then. Okay, what does Isaac have to say about any of this?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Yeah. Abraham's making the deal. Isaac this is the way that culture is. But let's be reminded of the relationship between Abraham and Isaac. What do we know about this? What significant events have happened that tell us something about the relationship between Abraham and Isaac?
Abraham was asked to sacrifice his son.
And what did he say to it when he was asked to sacrifice his son?
He was willing.
He was willing. So what does that, when you're the son of someone who's willing to sacrifice you to God, what does that make your relationship with your father?
Pretty tense, I would think.
A little tense. To know that you're not number one. Before that, maybe Isaac thought the sun rose and set on him because he was that promised son, and Sarah was thrilled and might have been pretty spoiled, but he got told his place where he was. Abraham and God were in charge, and Isaac wasn't. So we've got that going on. All right, so the servant is going to go back to Mesopotamia and get a good Mesopotamian wife that looks and acts and has the same culture, everything the same. Okay. And that happens in our culture. It's much less now, but in the generation that we're all from, people tended to marry within their own groups. You got any what do you think if I say that to you? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So I can understand Abraham. He said, "This is what I know. This is our culture. I'm messing around with other gods." But remember, are the people where Abraham came from the same faith that he is?
Mm. I remember.
What do you think? Abraham's family back in Mesopotamia, are they the same culture as where the same faith that Abraham is now?
I'm saying no. I don't know though.
They weren't, because God had this special place for Abram and called him out of the land where he was. This was a new faith. They had other gods. So that's not a religion thing that they're doing. All right, so let's keep that in mind as we go forward. Let's read now
So
verses
the
10.
wife, what then he finds, so is the servant from Mesopotamia too? Do you think that he's been with Abraham all this time?
Don't know.
But whoever he gets for the wife will probably not be.
He was the servant was from Damascus, according to the note in our Bible.
Really?
Probably from Damascus.
Oh, because he says it's probably Eliezer.
Read this.
Could be Elliot, but we
Eliezer
don't know
was the
that.
chief servant, and it
I think
says it was the
that's
chief servant.
Stuff to
Whoever it was, it definitely was someone that Abraham trusted completely. And this putting his hand under the thigh, I don't have any notes about that, but I imagine it was some tradition similar to shaking, like we do when we're shaking hands and making a deal, shaking hands with someone.
Ours hasn't.
Pinky promise.
Yeah, you can read it.
So I won't get my face slapped if I,
Yes,
No.
you will.
It says in our notes, put your hand under my thigh, and its explanation near the organ of procreation, probably because this oath was related to the continuation of Abraham's line through Isaac.
Interesting thing.
Mm.
Not particularly our culture. If you kind of did that, it might walk away with a black eye, I imagine. So, but anyways, that's part of these cultures. We have to remember culture is different. All right, let's go from verses 10 through 14.
I can read. The servant who was in charge of Abraham's property took 10 of his master's camels and went to the city where Nahor had lived in northern Mesopotamia. When he arrived, he made the camels kneel down at the well outside the city. It was late afternoon, the time when women came out to get water. He prayed, Lord God of my master Abraham, give me success today and keep your promise to my master. Here I am at the well where the young women of the city will be coming to get water. I will say to one of them, please lower your jar and let me have a drink. If she says, drink and I will also bring water for your camels, may she be the one that you have chosen for your servant Isaac. If this happens, I will know that you have kept your promise to my master.
Okay. Think about who prayed to God before this.
Who prayed, did you say?
Yeah, who prayed? Who prayed and asked God something before
The
this?
servant, right?
Yes, the servant. Well, I don't know. back
So
here.
and before this passage, all of the book of Genesis before this, who has ever prayed for something?
Abraham.
Abraham.
Sarah.
Did he
Didn't he?
ever pray, or did God come to him?
Excuse me.
I don't remember Abraham ever praying. It was God that came to him and spoke to Abraham.
I guess I think in terms of prayer as communicating with God, but he never initiated it.
A request from God.
Mhm. But he never initiated it. It was always God first.
The only one I can think of before this praying, well, it was Abraham having this conversation with God about if you find 10 people, that conversation. And then there was Cain who said, don't make me go out into the world, protect me, it'll be too big of a punishment. But this is the first time we have them saying that we have somebody just out of the blue talking with God. It's asking this type of request. This sounds like something that we would do. Before this, it's just much more of a conversational. So I just found that interesting that this is the first time that we see someone reaching out to God in this kind of way. So the man's made a particular request and said, let this be so I know this is the right one that I'm asking, because I'm stabbing the dark here. I don't know who you want Isaac to marry. So we've got the servant there. They're out. So let's see what happens. Now verses 15 through 27.
I can
Shoot.
Before he had finished praying, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, son of Milcah, who was the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin. No man had ever lain with her. She went down to the spring, filled her jar, and came up again. The servant hurried to meet her and said, please give me a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said, and quickly lowered the jar to her hands and gave him a drink. After she had given him a drink, she said, I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have finished drinking. So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough, ran back to the well to draw more water, and drew enough for all his camels. Without saying a word, the man watched her closely to learn whether or not the Lord had made his journey successful. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took out a gold nose ring weighing a beka and 2 gold bracelets weighing 10 shekels. Then he said, whose daughter are you? Please tell me, is there room in your father's house for us to spend the night? How far am I going?
27.
Okay. She answered him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Malchi, bore to Nahor. Added, we have plenty of straw and fodder, as well as room for you to spend the night. Then the man bowed down and worshiped the Lord, saying, praise be to the Lord, the God of master Abraham, who has not abandoned his kindness and faithfulness to my master. As for me, the Lord has led me on the journey to the house of my master's relatives.
Okay. So let's see. How is Rebecca? What's the relationship Rebecca with Isaac?
No.
Cousin?
Okay. Nahor was Abraham's brother.
Right.
Nephew. No.
And Nahor is her,
Niece.
Cousin.
Nahor is her grandfather, right?
Is the wife of, she was
So
the daughter.
Milcah was the wife. Bethuel was so Milcah is her mother. Bethuel is her father.
Verse 24.
Right.
And also earlier in the 15th.
No, Milcah, I'm sorry, Milcah is the wife of Nahor. Bethuel is their son. And Bethuel is Rebekah's father. So what is Nahor to Rebekah?
First cousins once removed.
No, Nahor to Rebekah. Nahor is the grandfather.
Grandparent, yeah.
Grandparent. Nahor is the grandfather. So Abraham and Nahor are cousins, are brothers. So that means, and Nancy had it right. What is the relationship of Isaac to Rebekah? Say it again, Nancy.
First cousins once removed.
So they're pretty close relatives. Better than Abraham, who married his sister.
Hmm.
Okay, so first cousins once removed. They're almost legal
Don't
in
get
this
it.
country.
I could ask them what they thought.
No.
Okay, so Rebecca is the first cousin once removed. And she just happens to be the one that shows up right there. This is a great thing, going back to the family. Excellent, what Abraham would have wanted. All right, so the servant is pleased. They are going to Rebecca's house. So now let's go to 28 through 33.
I can read that. The girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebekah had a brother named Laban, Laban, and he hurried out to the man at the spring. As soon as he had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's arms, and he had heard Rebekah tell what the man said to her, he went out to the man and found him standing by the camels near the spring. Come, you who are blessed by the Lord, he said. Why are you standing out there? I have prepared the house and a place for the camels. So the man went to his house, and the camels were unloaded. Straw and fodder were brought for the camels, and water for him and his men to wash their feet. Then the food was set before him, but he said, I will not eat until I have told you what I have to say.
Okay, that's where we want to stop. All right, we're going to learn a lot more about Laban. So Laban is who? Let's get that.
The girl's brother.
Rebecca's
Okay,
brother.
Laban is Rebecca's brother. He seems we're going to hear a lot about him. What was the key thing that happened when he saw Rebecca coming back after this encounter with Abraham's servant?
He said that.
Jewelry.
In the nose ring.
He thought, okay. He saw the jewelry she was wearing. So we find out more about Laban, and I have a feeling that Laban looked at that valuable jewelry and went, ka-ching!
Mhm.
This is a rich guy. This is something we want to take seriously. Good. Okay, bring him in. Bring him in. Because it says that when he saw the ring and the bracelets on her arm, and he heard the words, aha. Okay, so that gives us a little insight on Laban. We're going to find out more about Laban. That's her brother. Women don't have any rights now, so he's definitely in charge, whether he's older or younger, it doesn't matter. He's the man, she's not. So now we've got a longer part. Let's read 34 through 49.
I can do that. I don't see where 49 is yet, but all right, Laban said, tell us your errand. I am Abraham's servant, he explained, and Jehovah has overwhelmed my master with blessings, so that he is a great man among the people of his land. God has given him flocks of sheep and herds of cattle, and a fortune in silver and gold, and many slaves and camels and donkeys. Now when Sarah, my master's wife, was very old, she gave birth to my master's son, and my master has given him everything he owns. And my master made me promise not to let Isaac marry one of the local girls, but to come to his relatives here in this far-off land, to his brother's family, and to bring back a girl from here to marry his son. But suppose I can't find a girl who will come, I asked him. She will, he told me, for my Lord, in whose presence I have walked, will send his angel with you and make your mission successful. Yes, find a girl from among my relatives for my brother's family. You are under oath to go and ask. If they won't send anyone, then you are freed from your promise. Well, this afternoon when I came to the spring, I prayed this prayer. O Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, if you are planning to make my mission a success, please guide me in this way. Here I am standing beside this spring. I will say to some girl who comes out to draw water, please give me a drink of water. And she will reply, certainly. And I'll water your camels too. Let that girl be the one you have selected to be the wife of my master's son. Well, while I was still speaking these words, Rebecca was coming along with her water jug upon her shoulder, and she went down to the spring and drew water and filled the jug. I said to her, please give me a drink. She quickly lifted the jug down from her shoulder so that I could drink and told me, certainly, sir, and I will water your camels too. So she did. Then I asked her, whose family are you from? And she told me, Nahor's. My father is Bethuel, the son of Nahor, and his wife Milcah. So I gave her the ring and the bracelets. Then I bowed my head and worshipped and blessed Jehovah, the God of my master Abraham, because he had led me along just the right path to find a girl from the family of my master's brother. So tell me, yes or no, will you or won't you be kind to my master and do what is right? When you tell me, then I'll know what my next step should be, whether to move this way or that.
Okay. Now, why does the author or the storyteller here bother to tell every detail again?
I was wondering the same thing.
Okay, let's think about some other significant stories. Think about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Do we get this kind of detail repeated?
I don't remember.
But this story is the great-great-grandparents. This is the story of the actual relatives. It's their family story. It's not something that happened around them. It's not people beside them. This is great-great-great-great-grandma and grandpa, and this is how they met. And so it's so personal that they're just telling the story again and again as you're around the campfire. And then, okay, so you're sitting there, and remember when grandma and grandpa met? This is the story. So all the kids are going, oh yeah, tell us the story again. And everybody listening to the story says, then the servant said, and then great-great-grandma said, and then, it's just a beloved story. I get the feeling this is what is going on here. We want to just tell that belovedness of our ancestors. And this is the story. We know we had Abraham. Think about Abraham and Sarah, all the stories we had and all the stories about the difficulty for the birth. We had some stories of Ishmael, but they're kind of told. But this is our story. This is me. Have you seen that show, Finding Your Roots? Anybody seen that on PBS?
Yeah.
And I have. Okay, a couple of, and you hear the people seeing these stories of their great-great-great-great-grandparents, and it's just like, oh, that's mine. That's where I came from. And it's just so intense. We just watched this last week. It was Carol Burnett, Finding Her Roots. And that story going. And so here's their story. So this is why it's in such detail and repeated again and again, because this is where I came from when they're telling us around the campfire. It's not something that happened about them or around them. This is my actual roots and how grandpa and grandma got together.
We probably should sometime.
Okay, on we go. Let's do number 50, verse 50 through 61. We're getting through the chapter.
I can do that.
Thank you.
50.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Then David and Bethuel answered and said, the matter comes from the Lord. So we cannot speak to you bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. And it came about when Abraham's servant heard their words, that he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. And the servant brought out articles of silver and articles of gold and garments, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they arose in the morning, he said, "Send me away to my master." But her brother and her mother said, "Let the girls stay with us a few days, say 10, afterward she may go. And he said to them, "Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master." And they said, "We will call the girl and consult her wishes." Then they called Rebekah and said to her, "Will you go with this man?" And she said, "I will go." Thus they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse with Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said to her, "May you, our sister, become thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gate of those who hate them." Then
You got another-
Rebekah, do you want more?
Yep, just one more. Yep.
Then Rebekah arose with her maid, and they mounted the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and departed.
Okay. There's some significant things in this story also. So we see what's going on, and everybody's okay with it. They say, okay, it must be God's told you this. We can't really go against God. We can't say no. So Rebecca has, no, they said, okay, you can have her. She has no say in it. But now, what's the next part of the story? What happens?
I wanted to stay for 10 more days.
Okay.
But
Would-
they did ask her opinion on whether she wanted to wait or go.
Yeah. She had a little bit of say in this.
Mhm.
What was that significance of waiting 10 days before she would go?
Give her a chance to change her mind.
Yeah. Change your mind. Give them a chance to say goodbye. I mean, they might never see her again.
Maybe
I mean-
maybe they thought they'd get a lot more gifts and stuff if they held out a little bit longer.
There you go.
That too. That could be. Because we already found the nature of Laban, and we know later on. Okay.
Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. All right. But they just wanted to get it done, get back home. And they actually asked Rebecca if she wanted to go. That's pretty incredible for that culture to say, yeah, you have some choices. Do you want to go? She's got the ring in her nose, and she's got the jewelry, and she's got all these really nice looking garments and things. And she said, okay, I'll go. Could you imagine that? Any of you have any family stories of people that left their hometown and as young people and never ever saw their families again?
Oh, no.
You do, Claire. What do you have? What's your story?
I am second generation born in America. And my grandparents came over when they were teenagers, and they were escaping World War I. And their families sent the children to other countries. I think my grandmother's brother went to South America, and she came to America. And as a 17 or 18-year-old, she found somebody here to marry and started her life here, and she never saw her family again.
Wow.
So that makes me wonder, you know, what would I have done if I had to leave my family or my family sent me away? I don't know. I don't think I would have liked it.
Yeah.
But she made it, she made a life here. She had children here. She was a grandmother.
Where did
And
she live? Where did she first?
she lived in Oakfield, New York, which is near Batavia.
Mm-hmm.
And what country had she come from? Oh,
She's frozen.
she's frozen. Bad internet connection.
She's not even Presbyterian and she's frozen.
Nope, there she is.
Okay,
Yeah.
Claire, we lost you for a little
Sorry.
bit. So we were wondering what
She lives in Oakfield, New York, which is near Batavia. And, well, she doesn't anymore. She's deceased. But
what country had she come from?
somebody who worked in the gypsum mines there. And she raised her family there. And she had, let's see, 5 children.
Is it your father's mother or your mother's mother?
It'd be my mother's mother.
And
Okay,
where
what-
did she
And
come from?
the same with my father's parents. They too sent their children to Pennsylvania. We have still relatives or relations there. And I just can't imagine having to leave your home, your country, travel by yourself as a young teenager and start a whole new life.
Mm-mm.
When I visited, when I was in college, I had a chance to go to Europe with the school. So I did that, and my grandmother was so upset because she didn't think anybody should go back to the old countries.
Oh,
You should stay here in America. And I wasn't going to leave America. I just was visiting, you know, but she was really adamant about not going. So I think at the end she did finally find her brother, who was now in France. He went from South America to France, and she did write him letters. So she did kind of get back in contact with family a little.
Hmm.
But it's sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
War is not nice.
Mm-mm.
No.
what country was she from?
Poland.
Mm.
And your father's mother?
Poland.
Poland.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that happens. David's grandmother, it was the same. Her brother had come over. It wasn't World War I, but it was a war. So her brother, his grandmother's brother, came to the United States, and they wanted someone to cook for them. So they sent over a little sister who was 17 or so to come over to the United States. And the rest of the family was supposed to come at some point, but they never did. So she never ever saw her
Wow.
family.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you think about these stories and think, but this is what the Bible story is saying. They're probably saying goodbye to Rebecca. They're probably never going to see her again. And it wasn't quite as far, but it was a distance. But they're saying goodbye. It's not like we're gonna see you on Christmas or anything. You're gone.
She didn't mind.
There you
No, she said it's okay. I mean, they gave her good, nice clothes, and
Mhm.
she was okay with it. But imagine meeting someone that day. They met the day, and the next day he says, "Okay, we're going back. Are you going with me?" She says, "Okay."
Yeah.
Well, that was
Wow.
that was even the servant. It wasn't even the man she was gonna be
Didn't even know.
marrying.
Maybe he had, maybe he was really ugly, and she had no idea. She was just gonna go.
Did they ever mention the name Isaac was going to be her husband?
No,
She didn't even care what
But
his name was. She wanted to get out of
know.
town.
She did know it was Abraham, so she knew this relationship. She knew he was her
Son
first
of
cousin.
Abraham.
She knew that. That's the only thing she knew about him.
But your chances of marrying somebody that, I mean, this guy was the servant and he had an awful lot of good stuff. If he had all this stuff for her, I mean, what were her chances? She wasn't going to be able to choose her husband there.
No, she wasn't gonna ever. No.
But the ones that were there, she already knew what they were like. Maybe none of them were worthy of how awesome she was. So figure, well, I might as well go rich. I don't know whether I'll like them, but I might as well go rich. I'm going to get stuck with somebody.
But she did have a little bit of choice here. She did have, I mean, it was a 10-day thing, but I mean, within that 10 days, a whole lot of stuff can happen in 10 days. And so, but she said, yeah, I'll do it. So off they go. And remember, the servant had not only brought the jewelry, but he brought 10 camels. That's a lot of camels. That's some pretty good wealth coming there. She knows she's going to marry this rich guy. Off she goes. All right, let's read 62. We're 24, 62 to 67.
I can attempt that.
Okay.
Meanwhile, Isaac, whose home was in the Negev, had returned from something. One evening, as he was walking in and meditating in the fields, he looked up and saw the camels coming. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted from her camel. "Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us?" she asked the servant. And he replied, "It is my master." So Rebekah covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her deeply, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother.
Okay. And thus ends the story of how Grandma and Grandpa met. That's just like, okay. And Isaac loved her. That's, I mean, the nature of Isaac, the spoiled, rotten kid, who then is almost killed by his own father. So he just put those pieces in there, and then he sees this woman coming, and he loves her, and he's comforted after his mother's death. Think about that a little bit. So we talked about the relationship with Abraham and Isaac. What was the relationship with Isaac and Sarah?
Much closer, I think, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, we can only speculate.
Spoiled, probably, yeah.
Probably still spoiled by Sarah. And can you imagine when Isaac came home from going up to the mountain where Abraham almost kills him, and he tells Sarah, "What did you do, Abraham? I can't believe you did that. Well, he's with my son."
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, and mom dies, and now he's just left with dad. I mean, he's an adult. Now, how old was Sarah when she died? Let's go back a little bit.
Oh, goodness.
It tells how old she was. It's another chapter back. Just the last
27 years old.
127. So how old was she when Isaac was born?
90.
90. So if Sarah dies at 127, how old is Isaac when she dies?
37.
37. He's not a kid. He's not, it's not like he's going, oh no, who's going to take care of me now? But this is probably a really derogatory comment, but some men are, who's going to take care of me? Who's going to cook for me?
Right.
Not that, you know, there's just, and
Nothing
that,
wrong-
That's right, Dan. That's right.
nothing wrong with that, right, Tom?
Yeah. What's
in
new
that
there?
in that time, men would not have known how to cook. That wouldn't have been it. So maybe mom was still taking care of him. But so he just, it's just such a tender phrase that Isaac loved her and was comforted after his mother. So it tells us a lot about the nature of who Rebecca was, that she was a caregiver. And it's just, isn't that a tender phrase? We never hear that about Abraham and Sarah. We never heard that Abraham loved Sarah. Never. And this is just the first time we've ever heard that this couple was in love. How sweet is that?
That's sweet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've got Isaac married. We've got Sarah dead. This next chapter, we're going to go a little farther because we're going to just do the first 18 verses of this chapter. But I want to read the first chapter 25, the first 5 verses. And this is going to knock your socks off because very few people remember ever reading this.
Oh my goodness. Look at
Kay's already reading it.
that. I am.
Okay, Kay, you got to read it then. They know you.
Oh no, I can't pronounce all these.
Come on.
Okay,
Now,
who's going to
Abraham-
read it? Who wants to read
Now
it?
Abraham married again.
Okay.
Keturah was his wife, and she bore him several children: Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua. Jokshan's 2 sons were Sheba and Dedan. Dedan's sons were Ashurim, Letushim, and Leuman. Midian's sons were Ephra, Hanak, Abida, and Elda. How far am I going?
Through 6. Sorry.
So what'd you say? How far?
Through 6.
Abraham deeded everything he owned to Isaac. However, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them off into the east away from Isaac.
Okay. So how many of you realize that Abraham had another wife?
He was a go-getter, wasn't he?
I mean, how old is he now?
Old.
100 something.
Sarah was 127 when she died. Abraham's 10 years older. He's 137. And how many children does he have with Keturah?
7? Was it? Yeah.
Zimran,
Oh, several. 6.
Median, Ishbab, and Shua. 6. 6 children. We don't know boys or girls, and we get the descendants. So he had 6 more children. That's kind of amazing.
Wow.
Wow is right.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ever remembers that Abraham had another wife. But they were not obviously the children of the promise, so he gave them gifts and sent them on their way. And get out of here, Isaac's the son of the promise. You're really nothing. Out you go. I always, when I read that, thought, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
But they went to live away from Isaac. Why did they have to go away?
They didn't want him competing with Isaac.
Bingo. Isaac was the son of the promise. Ishmael was sent away. Isaac is the one that's going to get the land. That's his. He's the one of the promise. These other guys, nothing. But these, when we and now the significant part of all this list of names is they're really not names of people. They're names of places. and I think we read this before. I know we did because it said in my commentary back in volume 1. It's like saying, and his son was America, who was the father of Georgia
Oh, yeah.
and Pennsylvania. And these are just all places. And it's giving you this impression that it's not like the story of this is how grandma and grandpa met. This is kind of the origin. All these places around here, they all came from our history. You're not related to them because they're children of another mother but they're places. So whether this is really all these offspring, we don't know. But they're places, and just that idea that everything around us came from Abraham. Not a lot of detail about anything. So there's that. So let's,
What verse are we at? This is interesting.
25.
That's where we're going.
We're going to start reading. We're going to go to verse 7 now.
Okay.
Okay, so let's read 7 through 18, and that'll be where we'll end tonight.
My goodness.
Okay, someone will read chapter 25, 7 through 18.
Altogether, Abraham lived 175 years. Then Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age. He sure did. An old man full of years, and he was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, in the field of Ephron, son of Zohar the Hittite, the field Abraham had bought from the Hittites. There, Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah. After Abraham's death, God blessed his son Isaac, who then lived near Beer Lahai Roi. Let me keep going. This is the account of Abraham's son Ishmael, who Sarah's name These are the names of the sons of Ishmael, listed in the order of their birth. Nebai, the firstborn of Ishmael, Kedar, Abiel, Bimsam, Mishma, Duma, Masa, Hadad, Tema, Jeter, Nephish, and Kedemah. These were the sons of Ishmael, and these are the names of the 12 tribe rulers according to their settlements and camps. Altogether, Ishmael lived 137 years. He breathed his last and died, and he was gathered to his people. His descendants settled in the area from Havilah to Shur, near the border of Egypt, as you go towards Asher. And they lived in hostility towards all their brothers.
Okay, so we've got that fighting going on right there from Ishmael's descendants. And these, once again, are the names of towns and places that Ishmael's descendants. So that's Ishmael. But you see, you notice that it's Ishmael and Isaac who bury Abraham.
Right.
So that means that Ishmael and Isaac were in communication all along. So they got along. They weren't enemies. They just, I mean, Isaac was the child of the promise. Did you notice how many tribes were descended from Ishmael?
A lot.
The number is significant.
Let's see.
Verse 16. Or 7.
12 tribes.
Yeah.
12. Is that a significant number to anybody?
So is Israel.
So is Israel. Yeah. Israel, of course, isn't going to be till the next generation. Isaac, how many children did Isaac have? We'll read about that just if you remember. We're going to get into that next week. How many children did Isaac have?
2.
2. He had only 2. So he didn't have the 12 tribes, but we've got the 12, that 12 from Ishmael, and then we've got the 12 tribes that are going to show up later from the other one. So just saying, all of these things that we read about how God promised he would take care of Ishmael and Ishmael would prosper and be a great nation, they're kind of echoed in Israel. We have these 2 nations that are started because Sarah wasn't patient. It's a whole kind of thing. She just didn't trust God. So there we have, and that's the last we're going to hear of Ishmael. Except we're going to have some of the names of these places and things are going to come back up, and they're going to be enemies, but they're the descendants of Ishmael. So there we have these 12 tribes and the 12 tribes of Ishmael. And you remember the story I told you how the Muslims have the story that it wasn't Isaac that was the sacrifice, it was Ishmael. So there's all of these parallels that go to with these 2 sons. And we never hear anything of the sons of Keturah, who was the wife after Sarah, because the promise had already been fulfilled. So there we have it. Do you have any questions or comments on these chapter and a half we've done? So we have buried the matriarch and patriarch of the Jewish nation. And now we're on the 2nd generation, and this wife has come back. So far, we still have the whole family is all from that same tribe in Mesopotamia. So they're still foreigners, and they're all the same ones. So we'll see where that goes. Okay, any other comments or questions? We lost Kathy in the midst of this.
Yeah,
But-
she texted she wasn't feeling well. She decided to jump off.
Okay, yeah.
We have a comment, but we'll wait until we're
Okay. So I will stop the recording then.